Hi everyone, this is Ravi. Welcome to Playwright Automation tutorial. As you all know, I have already published 5 YouTube videos covering different concepts from overview and introduction to the Playwright automation, architecture, advantages of Playwright automation, and then from lesson 3, I have covered test case automation by using Playwright with Java programming language, and by using IDE Eclipse, right? But from this lesson onwards, which is lesson 6, I'm gonna teach you the automation concepts, playwright automation concepts by using Visual Code and the programming language JavaScript. So this is our lesson 6 where I'm gonna teach how can we install Playwright with Visual Studio Code as an IDE, and we can start using JavaScript as a programming language, which means Node.js. Node.js supports JavaScript as well as TypeScript, but we are going to consider JavaScript as a programming language in automating test cases by using Playwright Automation tool. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon, you'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. Okay, so what is our agenda item? So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you what are the prerequisites to install the Playwright, right? And then I'm going to teach you how can we install Playwright in 2 different methods. One is installing Playwright by using Visual Studio Code in a command prompt, and then installing Playwright in Visual Studio Code by using VS Code extensions. So these 2 methods I'm going to teach you, and then once you install, what are all the components that's going to install in your VS Code. I'm going to explain you each and every component within the VS Code project, right? As soon as you install Playwright, what are all the different extensions that it is going to install, what are all the different files it is going to install, right? I'm going to explain all these things, okay? And then what is the advantage of installing Playwright by using second method called VS Code extensions, right? So now without delay, let's jump onto the system and see how can we install Playwright in 2 different methods. Okay, so to install Playwright, following are the 2 prerequisites. The first one is you need to install Node.js. Why do we need to install Node.js? Let me explain quickly. So let us go to Playwright, right? So as I explained you in my previous sessions, you can automate Playwright, right? You can automate your test cases by using Playwright automation with all these different programming languages. Either you can use Node.js, Python, Java, .NET. So what is Node.js? If you are using Node.js, you can use the programming languages like JavaScript and TypeScript. So now, because we are going to use JavaScript as a programming language in automating our test cases by using Playwright, it is must to install Node.js. Okay, so to install Node.js, I would recommend you guys to refer this URL. I have already published YouTube video how to install Node.js, right? I'm gonna paste this URL in the description. You can use that URL to go over installation process of your Node.js. And then our second prerequisite is we need to install IDE Visual Studio Code. So basically, we can use any IDEs. You can use Eclipse or any other IDEs, but I recommend you guys to use Visual Studio Code because in current market, this is one of the famous IDE that we use for automation. Okay, that too especially for Playwright by using JavaScript. Okay, so to install IDE VS Code, I would recommend you guys to refer to this URL, right, that I have pasted in the description. Okay, and then once you complete installing these two components, now it's our turn to install Playwright. As I told you, there are two methods to install Playwright. The first method is installing Playwright by using Visual Studio Code in the command prompt. Second method is installing Playwright using Visual Studio Code extension. So first method is using command prompt. Let's go here. So install Playwright using commands. How can we install Playwright using commands? So for that, first we have to open our VS Code, right? So let me open my Visual Studio Code, Microsoft Visual Studio Code. Okay, so once you open your Microsoft Visual Studio Code, you have to navigate to, so basically this is your welcome page. If you are not seeing this welcome page, go to help and then click on welcome. That will navigate to welcome page, right? And now let us first create, what is our first step? Create a folder and open in VS Code. So let me first create a folder. Okay, so what I'll do here, I'm going to create one folder called playwright automation command. So basically we are using command prompt, right? Command. Okay, this is the folder I created. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to open my VS Code. There are two ways. Either you can simply open the folder from here, or you can simply drag and drop the folder. Drag and drop the folder onto VS Code. That's it. That will open your folder that we created just now. Okay, so this is your folder, correct? I can see the folder that is created. Done. Now what is our next step? Our next step is you need to go to terminal and run the command. Okay, so let's go to terminal first. Okay, let's go to terminal first. How? Go to terminal, click on new terminal. Okay, as soon as you click on new terminal, it will direct you to the project folder, playwright automation command. So this is my project folder, right? Whatever I created. So now I want to install playwright in this project folder, right? How do you want me to install? I want to install playwright in this project folder, correct? So here there are two ways. First, you enter npm init. So this will actually install all your npm packages, node.js packages, correct? But I want to install node.js packages along with my playwright, right? So now for that you need to enter npm init playwright latest. What it will do, it's gonna install your latest playwright version, npm init playwright latest. That is the command that you need to use. Okay, npm init playwright latest, and you can provide the version number also instead of latest here, but I want to install latest version, right? So then hit enter. As soon as you hit enter, what it will do, it's going to start installing playwright in folder called playwright automation command. So here it will ask you to select which programming language do you want to use, either TypeScript or JavaScript. I want to use JavaScript. By using down arrow, you can select up arrow and down arrow. You can select the language that you want to install. So I want to install by using JavaScript. I selected JavaScript and hit enter. And it is asking where to put your end-to-end tests. Where do you want to put end-to-end tests? I want to put my end-to-end tests in under folder called tests. That's what I'm going to enter. and hit enter. And now it is asking add a GitHub Actions workflow. So generally it comes into picture when you actually create your CI/CD pipelines, right? If you want to push your code to the GitHub. For now, I'm going to mention it as Y. That means I want to create GitHub action workflows. Enter Y. And it says Playwright browsers. So do you want to install Playwright browsers? Okay. Yes, I'm going to specify it as Y. So now it is initializing npm project and it is installing your Playwright along with the browsers. So if you see here, it says added 3 packages, correct? Downloading browsers also. So if you see here, go to the history, what it does, it installed your Playwright and also it installed the browsers also, correct? So if you scroll down here, if you see npx playwright test, npx, see what are all the commands. If to run the test, you can use npx playwright test. That means under test folder, whatever the test cases are there, it's going to execute your tests, all tests. npx playwright test hyphen ui, that means it's going to execute in user interface mode with the browser. If you enter the command npx playwright test hyphen project equal to chromium, that means it's going to execute the test on Chrome, right? And if you want to execute your test in debug, it's going to enter this way. If you want to use your codegen, you can use codegen this way, right? All these commands are available. And now we have performed all the commands and we have installed the Playwright, right? So now if you go here, if you see, this is entire folder structure that is created. If you see here, there are some examples also that got created. Under test, if you open example.spec, see, these are some examples, test cases. This is my first test and this is my second test, correct? And you have some more examples. See here, these are different examples, correct? So now, and if you see here, package.json, if you see, this is my package.json. What is this file? This is actually a node project management file with project dependencies. If you see here, you can see dependency playwright version, this one. What is node.js version? This one, correct? Node version is this, playwright version is this, correct? And now that means here in this file you will be managing all the project dependencies. The next one is playwright.config.js. This one, playwright.config.js. Here you will be setting up all your project setups. Basically, configuration file, customize various options for your Playwright setup. All settings like what is your test directory? This is my test directory, which is test folder. Fully parallel, yes, true. If you scroll down here, you can see a trace, right? On first retry. Your reporter, what is your reporter? HTML reporter. And you can configure your project browsers. This is my Chrome browser, this is my Firefox browser, this is my WebKit, which is Safari, correct? And if you see here, these are all commented out, but these are all mobile browsers, mobile browser simulations, mobile Chrome, mobile Safari, mobile Edge, right? And this is your Pixel, this is your iPhone. All these things I'm going to explain later, but all these configurations you can maintain in playwright.config.js. And then you have test folder. As I told you here, this is your test folder where you have some sample tests that are getting created, that's got created as soon as you install Playwright. And then git ignore. What is this? Git.ignore, which is, this comes into picture if you want to export entire code base into your Git repository. And here, whenever you export entire code base to your Git repository, If you want to ignore exporting into the repository, you can specify whatever the folders that you want to ignore. I want to ignore node underscore modules. I want to ignore test underscore results. I want to ignore playwright reports. I don't want to export all the results and modules to my repository. I want to export only code base, right? So I can ignore all those. So whatever you specify is going to ignore corresponding folders, right, while exporting to your GitHub. And then playwright.yml file. So this playwright.yml file, if you go to expand your GitHub and go to playwright.yml, right, this is actually, this comes into picture whenever you execute your automation by using CI/CD pipelines. See, name install dependencies. If you want to install browsers when you run CI/CD pipelines, you can specify these commands, right? npx playwright test. So you're actually specifying sequence of commands while executing your CI/CD pipelines in YAML file. Okay, so that is all done. Now, as we installed our playwright, I want to test what version of the playwright is installed, right? So let's clear. I'm going to the terminal again, right? I'm going to the terminal, clear this, npm playwright -v. So it's going to give you what version of your playwright is installed, 8.15.0, right? And then if I want to see the history, okay, npx. What is npx? Npx is generally, if you want to execute your npm libraries at local folder level, right, then you need to use npx playwright -h. It's going to show you your commands that you want to use, right? What are all the different commands, options that you have for your playwright. That is done. And now let's go to the next method. So this is our first method, right? Installing playwright by using command, terminal command, right? Now we are going to see how can we install playwright by using Visual Studio Code extension. And then what is the advantage by using Visual Studio Code extension? Okay, for this, what is our first step? Create a folder. So let's close this now. Okay, let us close all this. Let us go back to again welcome page. Okay, so let's create a folder now here. So let me create a new folder called playwright automation extension. We are using Visual Studio extension. Now I want to drag this new folder here and drop onto my Visual Studio Code. That will open the new folder. Done. We have opened the new folder or new project onto Visual Studio. Correct? Now, what is our next step? Go to extensions and then install Playwright extension from Microsoft. If you see here, there is an extension. There is an option called extensions. You'll be clicking on extensions, and here let me search. It's a kind of marketplace. Okay, Playwright. If you see here, first option, Playwright test for VS Code. Select your first option. If you see here, in my case, the Playwright test extension is already installed. I want to uninstall this now. So now let's install this. So once you complete your Playwright test for Visual Studio Code, if you see here, this is who is the publisher? Microsoft. You need to make sure that Microsoft is the publisher of this extension. So now I have installed, and then now I need to install actual Playwright, correct? So for that, let's go to view and go to command palette, and here install Playwright. Type install Playwright. You see here, select install Playwright. As soon as you select install Playwright, it's going to show different options. Do you want to also install your browsers? Do you want to install Chromium? Do you want to install Firefox? Do you want to install WebKit? And do you want to add GitHub action workflows? Yes, I want to add all these. And then I want to use JavaScript. Correct? I want to use JavaScript. I don't want to use TypeScript. If you want to use TypeScript, it defaults TypeScript. I want to use JavaScript. And now click on OK. As soon as you click on OK, whatever the commands that we executed on command prompt, the same commands is going to execute here as well. Earlier we executed, right? If you remember, the same commands it is executing here as well, right? It is installing the packages, it is installing the browsers and everything. Downloading browsers, see here, downloading browsers, Chromium, Firefox, WebKit, right? It's done. So again, if you see here, the same inside the directory, you can run the following commands. It is giving all the guidance and everything, right? So again, if you want to see what is the npm, what is the version it is installed, playwright-version. See here again, in this project folder, the new project folder called, what is that? So let's go back to project folder. This is our new project folder, correct? Playwright automation extension. So it's installed the latest version. And now again, you can see the same folder structure here. See here, the same folder structure in the new folder, in the new project as well. So here we have installed our Playwright by using extension instead of command prompt, right? That is done. Now what is the advantage installing your Playwright by using VS Code extension? Basically, if you install Playwright by using VS Code extension, you can navigate to Playwright view and you will get options to execute your test cases. You will have a UI interface. Instead of using commands, you can also have a UI interface, right? So if you see here, left side, either you can navigate to your directly by using testings, right? So that means this is user interface where you can execute your tests. Refresh here. So these are all the different tests that are available, right? These are all the different tests that are available. Or there is another way. Go to terminal, go to view, command palette. Here, playwright. See here, playwright view. Focus on playwright view. So that will navigate to playwright view. Here, you can directly, you have a refresh, execute your tests, debug your tests, right? So let's say I want to execute this test. What is that? All the tests that are available in example spec. I can simply, example specs, just watch this screen, okay? I can simply select any one of them. I can simply just select run. So if you see here, the test will be running here. See here, you can watch here. See, it started running tests. You can see timestamp also once the tests are running. It is running, see, waiting. It is running in browse, basically browse, headless mode. See, it's ran milliseconds. That means the first test is this, second test ran, this one ran. And you have another option. You can run by using Firefox, WebKit, whatever, Firefox. Let's say I want to use by using Safari. Select this. See, it started running now again. See, as soon as it runs this test, it gives you the timestamp. See, it is running here. Observe closely here. See, it is waiting and now it gives you the timestamp. Run, that's it. It's ran. And if you want to debug, you can debug also, right? So these are all the options you will get when you install your Playwright by using VS Code extension, right? You have a separate tab called test, right? You have a separate tab called explorer. Okay, so that is the advantage of your VS Code extension. Okay, I think that is pretty much for this session. I've covered all the concepts. If you have any queries, leave your queries in the comment box. I'll try to respond to your queries. Okay, so in the next sessions, I'm going to cover a lot of automation concepts like parallel execution, executing all your test cases in different browsers in series, in parallel, right? And a lot of other concepts by using Playwright JavaScript. Okay, please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon, you'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. Thank you.